Let's move on to this story now. Owners of the Open Chat podcast have issued an unconditional apology for derogatory remarks made about colored people during an episode that aired 2 weeks ago. In the video that has since gone viral, panel members of the podcast alongside guests can be heard accusing colored people of incest. In a letter of apology, the podcast says it regrets the racist and sexist remarks, adding that they don't support any form of racism, discrimination, or segregation. Meanwhile, the conversation has drawn wide condemnation from various political parties, with the ANC and the EFF being among the latest to express outrage. Patriotic Alliance has lodged a formal complaint with the Equality Court and the Human Rights Commission. The DA has also indicated it intends to report the matter. Let's chat about this now with Farah Fortune, who has since approached the Human Rights Commission. Your reaction, Farah, to the utterances by the podcasters and I suppose their subsequent apology?
Hi. I did watch the apology this morning, and to be honest, that wasn't an apology. When you're telling people you're too sensitive, that's not an apology. That's an excuse. And making blanket statements about racial groups or cultural groups, especially ones that dehumanize or insult in any way, is hate speech under South African law, particularly under the promotion of equality and prevention of unfair discrimination. So saying all colored people are incestuous is actually factually false, it's defamatory, it's racist, and it just perpetuates a violent stereotype amongst my people, and it's not okay.
And they appeared to be having so much fun while at it.
It's absolutely disgusting. And you need to remember that it's not just colored people that they have spoken so derogatory about. It's women, it's tribalism, it's, there's so many groups of people on this podcast that it's actually worrying that it's taken this for a group of people who are only 8.2% of the country to actually bring this up and now bring to the forefront that this is a problem. This podcast is a problem. The fact that it's on a platform that's not just a digital platform, it's actually on a TV station, is actually really worrying about what our youth actually have access to. And if you are a person who is not South African and you know nothing about colored people and you've come into the country and this is one of the first things you listen to, this is what you hear about colored people. And like I said, it's not okay. It's definitely something that they need to be taken to task for. If Penny Sparrow went to jail because she had so much to say about Black people, why do colored people get ignored when things are said about us?
Now, podcasts, have grown, phenomenally. And as everyone has been saying, they are the future and so on. What needs to be done to ensure that things like these, because with the traditional or legacy media, as people call it, people like myself, we still operate within rules, and there are ways of being held accountable. Not always successful, admittedly, but at least there's a set of rules that generally people follow, and there's a great deal of accountability. What should we do to nip this in the bud?
Well, we definitely need to look at podcasts going to the BCCSA, because the fact that these things continuously are happening, we need to have a platform that actually regulates them. And as a publicist, I hate to say that because I do honestly believe in freedom of speech, but there's a difference between freedom of speech and hate speech. And we can't normalize bigotry through entertainment. So definitely we need to look at how do we regulate podcasts to make sure that it's not about offending people, it's making sure that you don't break the law. Because things like this, it minimizes the impact of systematic racism under the guise of humor, and that it shouldn't be allowed, because this is what they are predominantly youth podcast, and this is what our youth have access to. Our youth already, we have such a big percentage of youth unemployment already, so the only thing that they have is access and time, and so this is not what they should be having access and time to. This is not what we should be exposing our kids to. This is not what we should be exposing people people to generally to think that it's okay to say anything about anyone and you will just get away with it. There needs to be something done about this. And I think if it means that they are held as an example of what can happen, then so be it.
Now, you've approached the Human Rights Commission. With what in mind?
For me, it violates ethical media standards for me because there is a duty not to entice hatred when you have a platform. They are an award-winning podcast. And, when you have a platform like that, you need to understand that you can't cross the ethical lines. You can't cross legal ones either. So approaching the Human Rights Commission is making sure that something is done about this. They're fined. There are some consequences. They apologize properly, because apologizing and telling people they're too sensitive is not going to cut it with my community. I don't think they should ever think that that's going to be enough. An example needs to be made. And if, like I said, if it's them, then so be it.
African Star Communications Director, Farah Fortune, thank you very much for your time.